The cold hum of the orbital station filled the halls like a heartbeat. Lights flickered softly above as machines worked to keep life flowing through the giant metal body floating in space. This place was called Orbital Theta 9, a meeting point for many species across the galaxy. It was supposed to be safe, peaceful. But peace could be fragile. Deep inside the station, behind service panels and ventilation shafts, a man named Ethan Cole moved like he belonged there. Maybe he did. He had spent years crawling through tight spaces, fixing what others ignored. He wasn't a soldier or a diplomat. He was just a maintenance tech. Quiet, average-looking, easy to forget. He wore a gray uniform with grease stains and a name tag that read, Ethan. Most people never looked at it twice. Today he was checking the air filters on Level 4, Sector C. It was a boring job, but someone had to do it. He pulled open a panel and stuck his head into the duct. Dust and bits of old wiring greeted him. He sighed and reached for his tools. As he worked, his hand brushed against something strange. Not wires, not dust. It was smooth, round, cold. He pulled it out carefully. It was a small black ball, no bigger than his fist. It pulsed faintly, like it was alive. Weird, he muttered. He tapped it with his fingers. Nothing happened. He turned it over. No buttons, no writing, just a smooth surface that felt wrong in his hands. He stood up and looked around. The hall was empty. Only the sound of the vents and the distant hum of the station. He thought about reporting it. But who would care? Security didn't usually listen to guys like him. They were busy with the Vortrack delegation that had arrived yesterday. Big, scary, lizard-like aliens with sharp teeth and even sharper tempers. They were here for peace talks. Everyone said it was a big deal. Ethan didn't know much about politics, but he knew that when big things happened, little people got ignored. So he slipped the black ball into his pocket and decided to check it later. Hours passed. Night shift began. The station grew quieter, the crowds thinning out. Ethan finished his rounds and made his way to the break room. It was mostly empty except for an alien from the Zolari race, sipping tea and reading something on a glowing screen. Ethan sat down at a table and pulled the black ball from his pocket. He stared at it again. It still pulsed slowly like a heartbeat. He tapped it again, harder this time. A soft click sounded, then silence. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the lights flickered, once, twice, and then they went out completely. A low alarm started to beep from somewhere nearby. Red emergency lights came on, casting the room in a dim glow. Ethan frowned. What the hell? Outside the break room, footsteps echoed. Voices rose in confusion. Someone shouted. Ethan stood up quickly and stuffed the ball back into his pocket. He stepped into the hallway and looked around. People were staggering. Some fell to their knees. Others leaned against walls, eyes dazed. Some weren't moving at all. Aliens, tall, short, slim, bulky, all seemed affected. Their skin flushed different colors. Some gasped for breath, others collapsed entirely. But Ethan felt fine, just normal. He walked forward, stepping over a fallen figure. It was a Vortrack officer, huge, muscular, now lying motionless on the floor. Ethan knelt beside him, checked for breathing. Nothing. His heart pounded. What was going on? He grabbed his communicator. Control room, this is Ethan Cole. Do you read? Me? Only static answered. He tried again. Anyone? What's happening? No response. He ran down the hall, past more bodies. Humans, too. Some were out cold. Others twitched slightly, trying to move but failing. He reached a control panel and keyed in his access code. Maintenance workers had limited clearance, but sometimes they needed to override systems during emergencies. The screen blinked. Access denied. He cursed under his breath and opened the panel below the screen. He pulled off the cover and started working the manual override switches. He had done this 100 times before. Wires, circuits, relays. He flipped them one by one until the system rebooted. Lights came back on but dimmer. The alarm stopped. The screen reloaded. Emergency status. Biohazard detected affected personnel. Non-human toxin release. Confirm at origin. Unknown. Ethan read the message twice. Non-human. That meant he looked down at himself. Still standing. Still breathing. He was immune. Somehow, whatever toxin had been released, it only affected aliens. Humans were fine. He took a deep breath. Okay. Think. If the toxin was real, and if it was released in this part of the station, then it might spread further. He needed to act fast. He accessed the environmental controls and sealed off the infected section. Airflow redirected. Oxygen levels adjusted. He didn't know how long it would hold, but it was better than nothing. He grabbed a mask from a nearby locker and put it on. Not sure if it would help, but better safe than sorry. Needed to get to the main control room. Find someone still awake. Warn them. He started walking, then running. Down corridors, past collapsed figures. He saw a Zalari woman slumped against a wall, her blue skin pale. Farther ahead, 2 engineers from the Marek race lay tangled together, unmoving. He kept going. He reached the lift and pressed the button. It lit up. The doors slid open. Inside, another human stood. Young, female. Her name was Lisa Porter, junior engineer. She looked up, startled. Ethan, what the hell is going on? Toxin, he said. It knocks out non-humans. She blinked. Wait, we're immune? Looks like it. She shook her head. This isn't natural. Someone did this. He nodded. I found something. I think it triggered the release. She stared at him. You think you caused this? No, he said quickly. But I think it was planted. I need to get to command. She stepped aside. Then let's go. The lift doors closed. The ride was slow. Too slow. When they finally reached the upper level, the sight was worse. Command center was chaos. Consoles blinking red. Bodies scattered across the floor. Officers unconscious. Only a few humans remained upright, confused and scared. Voice crackled through the speakers. All remaining personnel report to Central Hub. Repeat, this is an emergency. Lisa looked at Ethan. Do you know what's really going on? He shook his head. Not yet, but I'm going to find out. He walked toward the nearest console and started typing. He bypassed locked files, used maintenance codes to access internal logs. There, footage from the lower levels. Grainy but clear enough, a shadowy figure planting something near the vents. Wearing a Concorde uniform. Someone from inside the station. Sabotage. He leaned closer, paused the image. The figure looked familiar. Too familiar. His stomach twisted. He knew who it was. But before he could say anything, a new sound filled the room. Growling, low, deep, animalistic. From the hallway. Everyone froze. Something was coming. Big, dangerous, and angry. The growling got louder. It came from the hallway behind them, low and heavy like thunder rolling through stone. Ethan felt it more than he heard it. His skin prickled. The sound was not human. Not even close. Everyone in the command center froze. Some backed away from the entrance. Others stared at the door like it might explode. Lisa grabbed Ethan's arm. What is that? He didn't answer. He didn't know, but he had a bad feeling. The door slid open with a hiss. A huge shape stepped. Inside, it was taller than any man, covered in dark green scales, eyes like burning coals, teeth sharp as knives, claws longer than Ethan's fingers. A Vortrack, and not just any Vortrack. This one wore armor. Battle scars lined its body. It moved slow, careful, like it was still waking up. But it was awake now. Its nostrils flared. It sniffed the air. Then it saw them, the humans. Its mouth curled into something between a snarl and a grin. You, it rumbled in broken English. You did this. Ethan took a step back. No, wait, we didn't do anything. The Vortrack lunged. In a flash, it crossed the room and slammed Ethan against a console. Sparks flew. Pain shot through his ribs. Lisa screamed. Ethan gasped for air. The creature's grip was like iron. He couldn't move. You poisoned us. the Vortrack growled. You tried to kill me. I didn't, Ethan choked out. It wasn't us. I found the thing that did it. Look. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the black ball. The Vortrack stopped, its glowing eyes locked onto the object. Where did you get that? It asked slowly. Ethan coughed. Found it in a vent. I think someone planted it. The Vortrack studied him. Then the ball, then back to him. After a long moment, it released him. Ethan dropped to the floor, gasping. The Vortrack straightened, looked around at the fallen bodies. Its expression darkened. My people? It muttered. Many are dead. Others unconscious. Ethan stood slowly, rubbed his chest. Same here. Only humans are unaffected. The Vortrack turned to face him, fully. Why? Why are you immune? Ethan shook his head. We don't share the same biology. Maybe our blood works differently. Or our nervous system. The alien grunted. Interesting. There was silence for a few seconds. Then the Vortrack spoke again. I am Kurvath, commander of the Vortrack delegation. Ethan nodded. Ethan Cole, maintenance tech. Kurvath tilted his head. You are small, weak, yet you stand while others fall. Ethan shrugged. Luck, I guess. No, the alien said. Not luck, instinct, action. You acted when others could not. Lisa stepped forward. If we don't figure out what happens soon, more people will die. Kurvath looked at her, nodded once. Then we find the truth, he said. They worked together. Ethan accessed the station's security logs. Kurvath watched over his shoulder, arms crossed. Here, Ethan said, pointing at a grainy video feed. Look. On screen, a figure in a Concorde uniform placed the black ball near a ventilation shaft. That's the same one, Lisa whispered. Yes, Ethan said. But who is it? They zoomed in on the image. The face became clearer. A man. Short brown hair. Familiar eyes. Ethan knew him. Matt, he muttered. Matt Harris. Lisa's eyes widened. Our co-worker. No way, Kurvath growled. He is your kind. Why would he do this? Ethan didn't answer right away. He was trying to understand it himself. Matt had always seemed normal. Quiet. Maybe a little too serious about politics. Talked sometimes about how humans were getting left behind in the galactic order. But this? He must be working with someone, Ethan said finally. Someone who wanted the peace talks to fail. Kurvath clenched his fists. This is sabotage, war by trickery. Ethan stood. We have to find him before he does more damage. Kurvath nodded. Then we hunt. They moved fast. Ethan led the way through the maintenance tunnels beneath the station. These paths were narrow, dimly lit, filled with pipes and wires. Kurvath followed closely behind, silent despite his size. Lisa stayed behind at command to monitor communications and warn them if anyone else showed up. Ethan kept his eyes on the map in his hand. They were heading toward Sector 7 where Matt had last been seen. How do you know this place so well? Kurvath asked. I spend most of my time fixing things, Ethan said. These tunnels are easier to move through than the main halls. You know every corner of this station? Almost, Ethan admitted. Kurvath made a low sound, almost like a laugh. Humans are strange creatures, he said. Small, fragile. Yet you move like shadows, see things others miss. Ethan smiled slightly. We make do. They reached a junction. Ethan motioned for silence. Ahead, faint voices echoed through the metal walls. Two men talking. One of them was Matt. Ethan pressed his ear to the wall. Plan is working, one voice said. The Vortrack are down. The talks are ruined. Good, said another. Once the others hear about this, they'll see humans aren't weak anymore. Ethan exchanged a glance with Kurvath. This wasn't just sabotage. It was a message, a warning, a declaration. Humans were tired of being ignored, even if it meant starting a war. Ethan swallowed hard. He had to stop this. Now, they moved carefully. Ethan and Karavath crept closer to the source of the voices. The tunnel opened into a small storage room. Crates stacked high. Shadows filled the corners. Matt stood near a console. Beside him, another man in a Concord uniform. They both held weapons. Ethan and Karavath ducked behind a stack of crates. "Can you take them out?" Ethan whispered. Karavath grinned. "Easily." "Wait," Ethan said. "Maybe we can talk first." "Talk?" the alien scoffed. "They tried to kill thousands." "Still," Ethan said, "let me try." Before Karavath could argue, Ethan stepped into the room. "Matt," he called out. Both men spun around. Shock flashed across Matt's face. "Ethan, what are you doing here?" "I know what you did," Ethan said. "I saw the footage. I know you released the toxin." Matt's jaw tightened. "It had to be done. Had to be done." Ethan took a step closer. "People are dying, Matt, real people." "They weren't going to let us in," Matt snapped. "The Vortrack, the Zalari, all of them. They treat us like we're nothing. We needed to show them we're not weak." "So, you killed innocent beings?" Ethan asked. "It was necessary," the other man said coldly. Ethan shook his head. "This isn't strength. This is fear." Matt raised his weapon. "You're making a mistake, Ethan." Then Karavath stepped into view. The alien loomed in, the doorway like a nightmare given form. Matt's eyes widened. "Who the hell is that?" Karavath took a slow step forward. "I am the one you tried to kill." Matt fired. The shot hit Karavath in the chest. The alien didn't flinch. With a roar, he charged. The other man tried to run, but Ethan was faster. He grabbed a nearby piece of metal pipe and swung. It connected with the man's side. He crumpled. Matt aimed again, but Karavath was already on him. The alien grabbed the gun and crushed it in his bare hands. Matt screamed as he was lifted off the ground. "You tried to destroy peace," Karavath growled. "You failed." He tossed Matt aside like a rag doll. Silence fell. Ethan caught his breath. Karavath looked at him. "You could have let me kill them." Ethan met his gaze. "I know, but humans believe in second chances." The alien studied him for a long moment, then he nodded. "Perhaps there is more to your kind than I thought." Ethan gave a tired smile. "Just don't judge us by size." The storage room was quiet now. Matt and the other man were unconscious on the floor. Broken weapons lay beside them. The air smelled like metal and sweat. Ethan stood over them, breathing hard. Karavath looked down at the fallen saboteurs with cold eyes. "They will be taken for trial," the Vortrack said. "But they may not live long enough to see it." Ethan frowned. "You're going to execute them?" Karavath tilted his head. "Would you not? They tried to kill my people." "I wouldn't," Ethan said. "We don't do that." The alien studied him. Then he gave a slow nod. "Humans are strange," Karavath muttered. "Weak, but full of strange strength." Ethan didn't answer right away. He just stared at Matt. Once they had worked side by side, fixed broken systems, talked about life off station. Now, he wasn't sure what Matt had become. "Let's get them to medical," Ethan said finally. "Someone should check if they're hurt." Karavath grunted but didn't argue. He picked up both men with one arm each and slung them over his shoulders like sacks of grain. Ethan led the way back through the tunnels. Back in the command center, things were still chaotic. Some non-humans were starting to wake up, groggy and confused. Others remained unconscious. Medics moved between the fallen, checking vitals. Lisa saw them come in and rushed over. "Did you find them?" she asked. Ethan nodded. "Yeah? And we stopped them." She looked at the two men hanging from Karavath's arms. Her face went pale. "Are they dead?" "No," Ethan said. "Just knocked out." Lisa let out a breath. "Good." A Zalari officer nearby turned to them. Her skin was a deep blue, her voice calm but tired. "What happened?" she asked. Ethan explained everything. How he found the black ball. How the toxin only affected non-humans. How Matt and his partner had planted it to sabotage peace talks. The Zalari woman listened carefully. When he finished, she looked at Kravath. This could have started a war, she said. The Vortrack commander growled low in his throat. It almost did. There was silence. Then the Zalari woman turned to Ethan again. Thank you, she said. If it weren't for you, many more would have died. Ethan shrugged. I just did what needed doing. She smiled slightly. That seems to be your habit. Hours passed. The station stabilized. The toxin was flushed from the air. More survivors woke up, but the damage was done. Many were injured, some were still missing, and the peace talks were now in doubt. In the main conference hall, diplomats gathered again. Tension filled the room like thick smoke. Kravath stood tall among them, so did the Zalari leader, and the Merrick ambassador, and Ethan. He wasn't supposed to be here. This was for high-ranking officials, diplomats, leaders, but he had been invited, not as a soldier, not as a politician, as the man who saved the talks before they ended in bloodshed. Several species eyed him with curiosity, some with suspicion. One of the Merrick delegates spoke first. Why is this human here? He asked. He is no diplomat. Another delegate, a thin insect-like being from the Zarn race, clicked its mandibles. He is small, weak. Why should we listen to him? Kravath stepped forward. His presence alone silenced the room. Because, the Vortrack rumbled, without him, I would be dead, and many of you with me. He looked around the room. This human acted when others could not. He moved fast. He thought clearly. He risked his life to stop a war. He pointed at Ethan. Do not mistake weakness for worthlessness. This one has strength beyond muscle. The room stayed quiet. Then the Zalari leader spoke. Perhaps it is time we reevaluate our views of humans. Others exchanged glances. Slowly, nods came from around the table. Even the Zarn delegate clicked softly, not in anger but in thought. After the meeting, Ethan left quickly. He didn't want praise, didn't want speeches. He just wanted to go back to work, back to fixing things. But Lisa followed him. You know what this means, right? She asked. Ethan walked down the hallway without stopping. What does what mean? You changed something. Today, she said. People are seeing us differently. He shrugged. Maybe. Or maybe they'll forget tomorrow. They won't, she said. You showed them that humans aren't just maintenance workers or junior engineers. We can be heroes too. Ethan gave a tired smile. We never needed permission to be that. They reached the maintenance bay. Inside, tools lay scattered. Wires dangled from open panels. Lights flickered above. Ethan grabbed a wrench and started, working on a broken console. Lisa watched him for a moment. You could leave this place, she said. They'd offer you something bigger, better. He shook his head. I like it here, he said. Things break. I fix them. It makes sense. Lisa smiled. You're weird, you know that? He chuckled. Probably. Later that night, Kravath found him again. The Vortrack entered the maintenance bay quietly, his heavy footsteps muffled by the hum of machines. Ethan didn't look up from his work. Didn't expect to see you again, he said. Kravath stood beside him. You handled yourself well, the alien said. Better than most warriors. Ethan wiped grease from his hands. Thanks. I guess. The Vortrack studied him. Your kind is small, fragile, but you move with purpose. You think ahead. You act when needed. Ethan raised an eyebrow. You sound impressed, Kravath gave a low rumble. Almost a laugh. Perhaps I am. He reached into his belt and pulled out something small. A blade. Not big, not flashy, but sharp. Made of dark metal. He held it out. Take it, he said. Ethan hesitated. Why? As a gift, Kravath said. From one warrior to another. Ethan blinked. I'm not a warrior. The Vortrack looked at him. You fought without weapons. You faced danger without fear. You saved lives. He smirked. Is that not what a warrior does? Ethan took the blade slowly. He looked at it. Simple. Strong. He gave a small nod. Thanks. Kershvath turned to leave. But before he reached the door, he paused. If ever the Vortrak march to war, he said without looking back, know that our path will bend to protect your kind. Then he was gone. Ethan stood there for a moment. Then he put the blade on the shelf beside his tools. He sat back down at the console and kept working. The station was quiet again. Not the silence of peace, but the kind that comes after a storm. People walked through the halls with tired eyes. Some still limped from the effects of the toxin. Others moved like ghosts, haunted by what had almost happened. War had been avoided, just barely, but the scars remained. In the days that followed, diplomats from across the galaxy gathered once more. Not for peace talks this time, but to talk about humans, about Ethan. His actions had changed something, not just on the station, but in the minds of those who saw him move when others could not. He hadn't worn armor, hadn't carried weapons, hadn't shouted commands or led armies. He had simply done what needed doing. And that made all the difference. Kervath stood tall in the main hall of Orbital Theta 9. Around him, representatives from many species gathered. Zalari with their calm blue skin, Merrick with their heavy frames, Zarn with their clicking jaws. They spoke in hushed tones, watching the Vortrak commander with wary eyes. He did not look at them. His gaze was fixed on one man. Ethan Cole. The human stood near the edge of the room, arms crossed, looking more like a worker than a hero. He didn't want to be here. But Kervath had asked for him, and no one denied a Vortrak warrior what he wanted. You have done much, Kervath said, his voice deep and rough, more than any of us expected. Ethan shrugged. I just did my job. Your job, the alien rumbled. You stopped a war. Others in the room murmured. Some looked impressed. Others skeptical. A Zalari diplomat stepped forward. Her voice was smooth, calm. Perhaps it is time we reevaluate our view of humans, she said. This one has proven that strength does not always come from size or power. A Merrick delegate scoffed. One human does not speak for an entire species. Kervath turned to face him. No, the Vortrak agreed. But one act can change the course of history. He looked around the room. For too long you have seen humans as weak, as tools, as workers. Yet this one acted when others could not. He thought clearly when panic ruled. He moved where others fell. He pointed at Ethan. He is small. Yes. Fragile. Yes. But he is strong in ways none of you understand. Silence filled the hall. Then the Zarn speaker clicked its mandibles. Humans are strange, it said. They do not fight like warriors. They do not lead like kings. Yet they survive. Another Zalari nodded slowly. Yes. They adapt. They learn. They endure. Someone else spoke up. If this is true, if humans are more than we believed, and then perhaps they should be given a place among us. The idea spread like fire. Murmurs rose. Some voices were doubtful, others curious, a few even hopeful. Later that night, Ethan sat alone in the maintenance bay. Tools lay scattered across the table. Wires dangled from open panels. The hum of machines filled the air. He wasn't working. Not really. He was thinking. Lisa walked in and leaned against the doorway. You've been quiet all day, she said. Ethan gave a half smile. Just tired. She came closer. They're talking about you out there, about humans. He sighed. I never wanted this. I know, she said. But it happened anyway. She looked at him carefully. Do you think we're ready for this? Ethan frowned. Ready for what? To be seen as equals, she said. To be respected. He thought for a moment. We were always equal, he said finally. They just refused to see it. Lisa smiled. That's the problem with big guys. They forget that sometimes the smallest ones make the biggest waves. Ethan chuckled. I wouldn't go that far. She nudged him playfully. You saved lives. You changed how aliens see us. He shook his head. I just did what needed doing. Yeah, she said, but you did it better than anyone else. The next morning, Ethan was called to the command deck. It was unusual. No one ever called maintenance techs to meetings with diplomats. But today, everything was different. When he arrived, the room was full. Kurvath stood at the center. So did the Zalari leader, and the Merrick ambassador, and others. Many others. They turned as he entered. Kurvath stepped forward. "Ethan Cole," he said. "You have earned respect among us." Ethan blinked. "Thanks, I guess." The Zalari leader spoke next. "Because of your actions, the Galactic Concord is considering a new proposal." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "What kind of proposal?" The Merrick ambassador answered. "To officially recognize humans as a full member of the Galactic Concord." Silence. Ethan stared. "Wait, what?" The Zalari nodded. "Yes, we believe it is time." Ethan swallowed hard. "Just because of me?" "No," the Zalari said. "Because of your kind. You proved what humans are capable of." Ethan looked around the room. Faces watched him. Some serious, some thoughtful, some even smiling. He felt something he hadn't felt before. Respect. Not for what he wore, not for what he held, but for who he was. After the meeting, Kurvath walked with him through the halls. "You surprised even me," the Vortrack said. Ethan gave a tired smile. "I keep surprising myself." The alien looked down at him. "Do you know what this means?" Kurvath asked. Ethan shrugged. "Humans get a seat at the table." "Yes," the Vortrack said. "But more than that, you opened a door. Now others will follow." Ethan nodded slowly. "I hope they do it right." Kurvath smirked. "They will. In time." He paused. "You could leave this place," he said. "Join the Concord. Become something greater." Ethan shook his head. "I like it here," he said. "Things break, I fix them, it makes sense." Kurvath studied him. Then he nodded. "You are strange," the alien said. "But I respect that." They reached the maintenance bay. Kurvath stopped. "Thank you, Ethan Cole," he said, "for saving my life, for saving many lives." Ethan looked at him. "You don't have to thank me." The Vortrack smiled. "Yes," he said. "I do." Then he turned and walked away. Ethan watched him go. Then he walked inside the bay. Back to work. Back to fixing things. But this time he knew something had changed. Not just for him, but for all humans. Life on orbital Theta 9 slowly returned to normal. The station was quieter now. Not because of fear, but because people had changed. Humans were no longer just workers or technicians. They were seen differently now, not as weak, not as background, noise, as something more, something worth respecting. Ethan kept working. He still wore his gray uniform, still fixed broken systems, still crawled through tight ducts and dusty tunnels. Nothing about his job had changed, but everything else had. People nodded at him now when he walked down the halls. Some even said hello. Aliens who once ignored him stopped to talk, asked how he was doing. Some thanked him. He never knew what to say back. "Just doing my job," he'd mutter before moving on. But deep down it felt good. One day, a message came. It wasn't from Station Command. It was from the Galactic Concord, a formal request. They wanted Ethan to join an upcoming diplomatic mission. His name was listed under Advisor. He stared at the screen for a long time. Then he closed the message and went back to work. Later that night, Lisa found him in the maintenance bay. She leaned against the wall and watched him tighten a bolt on a broken console. "You saw the message, didn't you?" she asked. Ethan didn't look up. "Yeah." "And?" she pressed. He shrugged. "I'm not going." Lisa frowned. "Why not? This is huge, Ethan. You could help shape the future of human relations with other species." He gave a small smile. "Someone's got to keep the lights on." She rolled her eyes. "You're being humble again." He chuckled. "Maybe." She sat beside him. "Do you really want to stay here forever?" He thought about it. I like it here, he said finally. Things break, I fix them, it makes sense. Lisa sighed. You know, most people would take this chance in a heartbeat. He looked at her. Most people aren't me. She shook her head. You're weird. He grinned. Probably. The next morning, Cravath returned. The Vortrack commander stood tall as ever, his armor gleaming under the station lights. He walked into the maintenance bay without hesitation. Ethan barely looked up. You're still here? Cravath said. Ethan smiled. Where else would I be? The alien stepped closer. The Concord offered you a place, he said. You turned it down. Ethan nodded. I did. Cravath studied him. You are strange, the Vortrack muttered. Most humans would jump at such a chance. Ethan wiped grease off his hands. I guess I'm not most humans. Cravath let out a low growl, almost like a laugh. No, he said. You are not. He reached into his belt and pulled out something small. A blade. Dark, metal, curved, sharp. He held it out. Ethan recognized it immediately. Isn't that yours? He asked. Cravath nodded. Yes. And now it is yours. Ethan hesitated. Why? The Vortrack looked at him. Because you earned it, he said. You saved lives. You proved strength does not come only from muscle or weapon. Ethan took the blade carefully. He ran his fingers over the edge. Thanks, he said softly. Cravath gave a slow nod. If ever the Vortrack march to war, he said, know that our path will bend to protect your kind. Ethan looked up. You don't have to do that. I know, Cravath said. But we will. Then he turned and left. Ethan stayed seated, blade in hand, quiet, thinking. A few days later, a new ship arrived at the station, a Zalari cruiser. Its captain requested a meeting with station command. When Ethan heard about it, he didn't think much of it, until the captain herself showed up in the maintenance bay. Her name was Talora. Tall, calm, blue skin shimmering under the lights. She walked, and like she belonged there. Ethan looked up from his work. Can I help you? He asked. Talora studied him. You are Ethan Cole, she said. He nodded. That's me. She stepped closer. You have done something rare, she said. You made us see humans in a new light. Ethan shrugged. I just did what needed doing. Talora gave a small smile. Yes, she said, and that is why we must speak. Ethan frowned. About what? The future, she said simply. He blinked. Okay. She sat across from him. Many species are watching humans now, she said. We are curious, impressed, cautious. Ethan nodded slowly. And you think that's because of me? Partly, she admitted, but also because of your kind. You opened a door. Now others must walk through it. He thought about that. I hope they do it right, he said. Talora tilted her head. What do you mean? Ethan looked at his hands. Humans are like machines, he said. We break, we get worn down, but we fix ourselves. We adapt. He met her gaze. Don't expect us to be perfect, but don't underestimate us either. Talora studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded. You are wise, she said. In a quiet way. Ethan gave a tired smile. I just try to make sense of things. She stood. Thank you, Ethan Cole, she said, for showing us what humans can be. Then she left. Ethan watched her go. Then he turned back to his work. Weeks passed. The galaxy moved forward. Peace talks resumed. New alliances formed. And somewhere in the stars, a message spread among alien worlds. Humans were no longer invisible. They were no longer overlooked. They had proven themselves not with weapons, not with power, but with action, with courage, with heart. Back on orbital Theta 9, life continued. Ethan worked. Fixed things. Kept the station running. No one called him a hero, no one put him on a pedestal, and he liked it that way, because heroes weren't always loud. Sometimes they were quiet, small, unseen, but strong, very strong.